This happened earlier this year, sometime around January, and at the time, I didn't even realize it as something frightening. If anything, it felt like a minor technical issue. One of those small annoyances that come with relying too much on smart devices. I had recently upgraded my apartment, adding a few connected features like smart lights and a thermostat. Along with them came an app that tracked everything. Every adjustment, every command, every tiny change was logged in a detailed activity history. I didn't give much attention to it at first. The only reason I even opened it was because my electricity bill came in higher than usual, and I wanted to see if something had been running more than it should. The first thing was the heating. It had been turning on during the day, which didn't make any sense because I'm rarely home. I work long shifts, and my apartment usually sits empty for hours at a time. At first, I assumed I must have accidentally set a schedule without realizing it. But when I checked the app, there was no schedule at all. Instead, there were manual entries. Heating turned on, heating turned off, lights adjusted, each one logged at times when I knew I wasn't there. Even then, I didn't jump to conclusions. I convinced myself I was probably just forgetting, maybe adjusting things half asleep or rushing out the door. It sounds stupid now, but at the time it felt like the most reasonable explanation. After that, I started paying closer attention. Every time I left the apartment, I made a point of checking the app right before walking out. Everything would be off, exactly how I left it. No active devices running. Sometime later during the day, I'd check again, and I found small changes. Nothing dramatic or obvious, just adjustments. The kind of changes that looked normal, like someone casually moving through the apartment and using things without thinking. It wasn't chaotic or erratic. That's what made it harder to dismiss, but also harder to accept. After a few days of this, I decided to secure everything. I changed my password, logged out of all devices, enabled two-factor authentication, basically locked the entire system down as tightly as I could. And for a while it worked. The strange activity stopped completely. No unexpected logs or random adjustments. Everything stayed exactly how I left it, and I started to relax again, telling myself it must have been some glitch or maybe a security issue I'd already fixed. Then one night, I woke up feeling uncomfortably warm. Half asleep, I grabbed my phone and checked the thermostat. It had been turned up higher than I ever set it. Still groggy, I adjusted it back down and went right back to sleep, not thinking much of it in the moment. But the next morning, when I checked the activity log, I saw something that's not right. There were two entries, one from when I adjusted the temperature and another from a few minutes before that, which meant the thermostat had already been changed while I was asleep. That's when I had this feeling I couldn't explain. Not quite fear yet, but something close. I decided to test it. That weekend, I stayed home the entire day. I didn't leave, didn't touch any of the devices, didn't interact with the system at all. I just waited to see if anything would happen while I was physically there. Everything remained exactly as it was, no changes at all. For a moment, that almost reassured me. But later that night, I checked the app again, and there was a new entry. The living room lights had been adjusted. I hadn't left my room. I hadn't touched anything literally. I got up immediately and walked into the living room. Everything looked normal. The lights weren't flickering. Nothing seemed out of place. But when I looked back at the app, I noticed something new, something I hadn't seen before. There was an additional device listed in the system. It wasn't one of mine. It didn't even have a proper name, just a generic label. It was connected, active. I removed it right away and went through the entire process again. New passwords, updated network settings, everything reset from scratch. For about 3 days after that, nothing happened. It was quiet again. Then one evening, after coming home from work, I opened the app without really thinking. At first, everything looked fine, but then I noticed a single entry that didn't belong. It showed the front door opening earlier that day. I literally froze for a second because my door isn't connected to anything. I don't have a smart lock. There's no sensor, no device, nothing that should be able to track that. There's no reason the app should even be capable of logging it. I went back through the history and found more entries like it. Not constant, scattered across the past 3 days. Door opened. Door closed. Over and over again. No associated device. That's when I checked the timestamps more carefully, and what I saw made it even worse. Every single one lined up perfectly with times I wasn't home. I didn't stay there that night. I packed a bag, left, and stayed with a friend. The next day I came back with him to check the apartment. Everything inside looked exactly the same. Nothing was missing, nothing disturbed, no signs of forced entry or anything unusual. It looked untouched. But when I opened the app one more time, there was a final entry from that morning. Door closed. I had left it locked, and no one had gone inside between then and when we arrived. I moved out a few days later. I never figured out how any of it was happening, or why the system was logging things it shouldn't have been able to detect in the first place. If the app was recording the door opening and closing, then whatever was triggering those logs wasn't just inside the system. It was inside the apartment. That's why I moved out. This happened around 3 months ago. It felt like one of those minor tech issues you ignore. Just a bug, maybe a delay, something explainable. I had an indoor security camera set up in my apartment. Nothing advanced or expensive, just a basic device that records short clips whenever it detects motion. I mostly relied on it when I was out, just to check in occasionally and make sure everything was fine. It wasn't something I obsessed over or constantly monitored, just a background layer of reassurance. The first strange thing happened while I was still at work. I got a notification on my phone, motion detected. I opened the clip. It showed my living room exactly as I'd left it, empty, still, no visible movement anywhere. I assumed it had picked up something insignificant, like a shift in lighting or a shadow passing by the window. That kind of false trigger happens sometimes with these cameras, so I didn't give it much thought and went back to what I was doing. Later that same day, it happened again. Another notification, another clip. And again, the room was completely empty. No movement, no explanation. At that point, it was more annoying than anything else. Just a device being unreliable. When I got home that night, I checked the camera through the app, scrolling through the feed and making sure everything looked okay. It did. Nothing seemed out of place. Nothing looked disturbed. And eventually, I just forgot about the whole thing. But the next day is when it stopped feeling like a simple glitch. I received another motion alert while I was at work, and when I opened the clip, I saw something that made me pause. It was me. Walking into the apartment, placing my keys on the table, taking off my jacket, completely normal behavior, the kind of thing I do every day without thinking. But the problem was, I was still at work when I watched it. I remember staring at the screen, trying to make sense of what I was seeing. The timestamp said the clip had been recorded maybe 10 minutes earlier. There was no way I had been home. I even double-checked with my manager, just to confirm I hadn't stepped out or lost track of time somehow. I hadn't. I had been there the entire time. When I finally got home later that day, Everything inside the apartment looked exactly like it did in the video. My keys were on the table. My jacket was on the chair, positioned exactly the same way. That's when I started convincing myself it had to be some kind of error with the app, maybe mixing up old footage with new notifications. So I went back through the history to check, but the clip wasn't old. It had a fresh timestamp, a new file entry, no indication that it had been pulled from anywhere else. After that, I started paying close attention to every notification. Most of them were still those empty clips. Rooms with nothing happening, triggered for no clear reason. But every now and then, there would be something slightly off. A chair moved just a little from where I remembered leaving it. A door opened a few inches wider than it should have been. Nothing dramatic, nothing that immediately screamed danger, just small inconsistencies that built up over time and made it harder to ignore. Then, a couple of days later, it happened again. Another clip of me, this time walking from the hallway into my bedroom. Same thing as before. Normal movement, natural behavior. And again, I wasn't home when it was recorded. I left my apartment, making sure everything was exactly how I wanted it. Door locked, lights off, camera pointed directly at the living room. Then I drove a few blocks away and waited, sitting in my car and watching my phone. About 20 minutes later, the notification came through. Motion detected. I opened the clip immediately, and there I was, standing inside my apartment, facing the camera. Just standing there. It's hard to describe what that felt like, because it looked exactly like me. Same clothes, same posture, every detail matched. But at the same time, I knew exactly where I was, and it wasn't there. The figure in the video didn't move the entire time. It just stood there, facing forward, until the clip ended a few seconds later. That was it. I drove back immediately, straight home, no stops. When I got there, I unlocked the door and went inside, half expecting something, but everything looked normal. The apartment was quiet, untouched, nothing out of place, no signs that anyone had been there. I checked the camera itself. It was still plugged in, still facing the same direction, but I unplugged it right then anyway. I didn't want it running anymore. That night, I couldn't sleep. I kept replaying that clip in my head, the way it looked, the way I was just standing, completely still. The next morning, I opened the app again. I don't know why. Maybe I just needed to confirm that nothing else could happen. But there was a new clip, recorded overnight. I opened it slowly. It showed the same view of the living room. Dark, quiet, completely still. For a few seconds, nothing happened. Then, very slightly, the bedroom door creaked open, and something stepped out. It wasn't clear enough to make out details, just a shape standing there in the darkness. It didn't move toward the camera, didn't make any sudden gestures. It just stood there. My eyes wide open when I saw it, and then the clip ended. I deleted the app after that, got rid of the camera completely. I never figured out how it managed to record something like that, or how it had footage of me when I wasn't even there. None of it made sense in any normal way. This all went down about 5 months ago. It completely changed how I live. Like, I don't keep a single smart device in my apartment anymore. Not one. I'm done with all that. And the crazy part is, when I first moved in, I was actually kind of hyped about it. I set the place up with some basic smart stuff. Just a few lights, a speaker, and a small camera by the front door. Thought I was being efficient, making life easier. At first, everything was smooth. No glitches, no weird behavior, just normal. For a couple weeks, it all worked exactly how it was supposed to. Then one night, something small happened. I told the lights to turn off, and they did. Simple. But then, like a few seconds later, the speaker lit up again, the way it does when it thinks it heard something, and it goes, "Sorry, I didn't catch that." The thing is, I hadn't said anything. I was just standing there in silence. I figured maybe it picked up some random noise, like from outside or the TV. Didn't really think too deep about it. But then a few days later, I'm in the kitchen, and I start hearing music playing in the living room. Not blasting or anything, just low, like background noise. I never told it to play anything. So I walk in, kinda confused, and just turn it off manually. Later that night, I even checked the app, thinking maybe I accidentally triggered it somehow. But no, nothing showed up. No record or anything. That's when it started to feel a little weird. But still, I told myself it was probably just a glitch. After that, things started stacking up. Like, I'd walk into a room and the lights would already be on, even though I hadn't been there. The camera near the entrance would have these short clips saved that I didn't remember triggering. At first I thought maybe the motion detection was just bugging out. Too sensitive or something. But then I actually watched one of the clips. That's when it got weird. The video showed my front door area. Completely still. No movement. Nothing. Just an empty hallway. But the camera had activated anyway, like something set it off. That didn't sit right with me. So I decided, alright, enough of that. I reset everything. Changed the Wi-Fi password, removed all the devices, reconnected them from scratch. Basically wiped the whole system clean. For a few days after that, everything went back to normal. No random sounds, no weird recordings. Nothing. I actually started to relax again, thinking I probably overreacted. Then one night, I came home late. I opened the app just to check the camera, out of habit. And I noticed something strange right away. There were a bunch of clips recorded while I was out. Way more than usual. So I opened one. Same thing as before. Empty apartment. Nothing moving. Just silence. But the timestamps were recent. Like, these clips were being recorded throughout the night at different times. That made no sense. The camera is supposed to record only when it detects motion. So what was triggering it? That's when I checked the activity logs. And yeah, that's where everything flipped. There were commands being sent to my system that I didn't recognize. Not voice commands either. Just logs showing devices turning on and off at times I wasn't even home. Lights, speaker, everything. It looked like someone else was controlling it. At that point, I'm thinking, okay, someone hacked into my system. That's gotta be it. So I go full lockdown mode. I remove every device again, change all my passwords, Wi-Fi, email, everything. Reset it all. And for about a week, it actually stopped. Then one night, out of nowhere, I get a notification. New device connected. My heart legit dropped. I open the app immediately, and there it is. A device I never added. No name, no type, just connected. I removed it instantly and changed everything again. At this point, I'm not even playing around. Next morning, I check the camera recordings. There's a new clip, recorded overnight. I open it, expecting the same empty hallway. And yeah, at first, it looks normal. Nothing happening. But then, near the end of the clip, something changes. The camera moves. Not like it failed or glitched, but like it was adjusted. Just slightly. A few degrees. Like someone reached out and nudged it. I just stared at the screen for a minute. Then I went and checked the actual camera. And yeah, it was angled differently than before. I hadn't touched it. That's when I snapped. I unplugged everything. Immediately. The speaker, the lights, the camera, all of it. I didn't want anything in my place connected anymore. I didn't care if it was a hacker or some freak glitch. I was done. That night, I'm in bed, trying not to think about it, when I hear this small click from the living room. Just that subtle sound electronics make when they power on. I didn't go check. I just stayed there, staring at the ceiling until I passed out. Next morning, I finally get up and walk into the kitchen. Everything looks normal, except for one thing. The camera, the one I unplugged, is sitting on the counter, not where I left it. And it's facing directly toward my bedroom door. I never figured out how anyone got access to my system. I don't even know if access is the right word anymore. Whatever was using those devices wasn't just messing around. I never found any reasonable explanation for that.